Hi, I'm Tippi. That's me. That's me. Anyway, I have had a kind of amazing life, and I finally thought, I'm kind of tired of everybody else writing about me. Why don't I tell the story myself? So I did it, and this is the book. I'm very excited about it. I hope you will have an opportunity to acquire it at some point in your life. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to read you a little excerpt of the book. And for those of you who have the book already, Tippi, we're on page 211, and we're going to start with the second paragraph down. Okay? You ready? All right. The night was surreal. Pounding, wind-driven rain, blue-red sparks from the welding torch, random beams from scattered flashlights, long stretches of fencing, part chain link, part human, grumbling, upset cats moving tentatively, single file through the corridor, while the experienced humans yelled to the novices, "Stay steady. If a cat comes up to you, don't move." And all the while, without knowing it, we were fighting a battle we couldn't win. A few miles upstream at Aliso Canyon, more and more water was collecting behind the clogged, debris-filled pipes beneath the country roadbed. Just as the rain stopped, all the water let loose. I'll spare you and myself all of the details of that horrible night. But by the time that it was over, a 10-foot wall of water roared into the canyon. I had time to grab only a few clothes and belongings before it crashed into the house. The commissary building, the crew kitchen, editing building, and sounding building, and all of the contents were swept away. Fences, cages, animal compounds collapsed, along with the chain link chute from the compounds to the rescue vehicles. The teardrop trailers of Gumpsterville were overturned and thrown around. Thanks to the depth of the foundation of the telephone poles, the African house survived, but it was tilted at the end. A huge tree and a dressing room building rammed into it. A car and a tree were embedded in what used to be the dining room. More than 100,000 feet of film were scattered as far as 5 miles away. Thank God the negative was safe and stored in a lab in Hollywood. Tranquilizer guns were used to stop numerous fights among terrified cats waiting to be driven to safety. 4 members of the sound crew had to be rescued from the ravaging waters by firemen with a grapple rope. Now, I want to just point out to you, if you aren't aware of this story, when I say cats, I'm not dealing with your domestic cat or your best friend. I'm dealing with lions and tigers. Okay? Does that give you a different perspective, maybe? Okay. Noel, alerted by Bill Dow, got dressed and literally bullied his way out of the hospital hours before his scheduled knee surgery, and summoned a friend to drive him home. The road was washed out for the last quarter mile, so he hobbled the rest of the way and immediately went to work moving animals. The second cat he freed from the perimeter fence where she'd been restrained and managed to wrap her 5-foot-long lead chain around his injured leg, squeezing and forcing pus out of his swollen, infected knee. He no longer needed surgery. A frightened lioness took care of it for him. 28 panicky, disoriented cats escaped. 25 of them were finally rounded up. The other 3, Mary, Melanie, and Robbie, were shot to death by the sheriff's deputies, who, I had to admit, despite my grief, they had no choice. And I finally found myself standing in the middle of the road, screaming hysterically, until someone, I don't remember who, took me to John's house above the flooded area. The next thing I remember was Monique pounding me on the back, yelling, "Breathe, you have to breathe, you have to breathe." The sun finally came up, the waters finally receded, and Noel and I started walking around our decimated property. Neither of us said, "We're wiped out." Neither of us needed to. He looked terrible. His eyes were sunken with circles around them, so dark it looked as if he'd been beaten. His face was ashen behind his damp, stringy head, and the severe pain he was in furrowed his face. I was a zombie. I vaguely remember driving into Acton to call my parents, my sister Patty and Melanie, to fill them in and share shocked, helpless silence on the other end of the line. I vaguely remember ambling through the debris and stepping over fallen cottonwoods to uselessly pick up a frying pan, a crew member's T-shirt from Husong's Cantina in Ensenada, and some wet, torn lion and tiger posters that had hung on the now exposed interior walls of the editing building. But there's one thing I remember with crystal clarity. I remember that not one member of the maintenance crew or the animal crews or the film crew, not one volunteer, not Marty Dennis or Steve Martin or Martin Downey, not a single one of them had left. Beyond exhaustion, sleep-deprived and scratched and damp and hungry, they were all still there. And I marveled at their courage and loyalty. It's not easy going through this again. Jan and Monique found a place to stay in town so that Noel and I could sleep in their still intact house on high ground that night. We were too bone-tired and in shock to talk, except for one brief, quiet exchange. "We don't have any choice but to finish it, do we?" he said. "And no, we don't," I replied. Sunday morning's Los Angeles Times reported that the Soledad Canyon devastation and the plight of our homeless lions and tigers, friends, and literally dozens of complete strangers responded. Truckers offered vans and trailers, ranchers and hardware stores showed up with portable fencing. The Southern Pacific Railroad office in Omaha called, ready to send railway cars to house the cats. Friends began shoveling sand out of our house, and one of them even found our supposedly waterproof 700-pound safe 5 miles downstream. Herb Dorfman, one of the most important men in our lives at the time, owned a place called Mission Meat in the San Fernando Valley, and he agreed to carry us so that we could keep the animals fed. Handlers and maintenance men started hauling food to the cats in the 49er bar and grill parking lot every afternoon and worked in shifts so that one of them was always there 24/7. We were overwhelmed with gratitude. A day or two later, to no one's surprise, a man from the insurance company declared that our house a total loss. By week's end, President Jimmy Carter declared parts of Los Angeles County, including Soledad Canyon, a total loss, which could potentially make us eligible for a low-interest loan. Even with the amazing help, we knew it would take months to restore the compounds and weeks before our house would be livable again. So Jan and Monique rented an apartment in Los Angeles, and Noel and I moved in to their little mobile home. Every day I think of another piece of my life that had been lost in that river. And when it was all said and done, the only one I really mourned was a reel of black and white film that had been housed in the demolishing editing room, commercials that I had done in the 1950s, including the Seago commercial that had attracted the attention of Alfred Hitchcock. And that's all for our reading session today.
We have a question from Simo Ne Hoffman. Greetings from Berlin. I'm a huge fan of your granddaughter, and I'm wondering how you would describe Dakota in 3 words.
Absolutely, fabulously beautiful. That's not much to live up to, is it? Yeah.
How did you become a top model for the Ford agency?
I became a model actually in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I got off the streetcar one day, and a lady handed me her card and said, "Would you ask your mother to bring you down to Donaldson's department store? We'd like to have you model in our Saturday morning fashion shows." So that all started in Minneapolis. My parents then, after a couple of years, moved to Los Angeles for my father's health. And I continued modeling there, and then all of a sudden New York was going, yoo-hoo! And so I called Eileen Ford, and she said, "Send me some photos," which I did. And she called me back and said, "Come on." And next thing I knew, I was on a plane going to New York City. And that's how that all started.
Chester Rice wants to know, how on earth did you get involved in the Vietnamese American nail salons?
This was one of my the prized times of my life, I must admit. I became a volunteer for an organization called Food for the Hungry, and I had met the president of that company, and he had said, "Would you like to go on a trip with us to one of the countries that have been decimated recently?" And they had been decimated by a flood. And I said, "Yes, absolutely." And that opened my eyes to a great deal that was going on in the world. And I went with Food for the Hungry to many different countries that had been decimated by floods or fire, war, whatever. And after the Vietnamese War, we had a place up in Weimar, California, where we could take in the Vietnamese refugees. It was an abandoned tuberculosis sanitarium, and there were buildings with rooms with bathrooms and kitchens and all kinds of things that made it very easy for us. And we tried to find jobs for these Vietnamese people. And I brought in typists and that sort of thing to teach them a trade. And I became very fond of a group of women. There were about 30 of them, and they loved my fingernails. And I thought, maybe manicuring might be a very, very good job for them. This was about when the what do you call it? The fingernails that were they weren't the acrylics that we're doing now or that sort of thing. Oh, that was a paper wrap. Yes. And so anyway, they learned how to do this paper wrap, and when it was my own manicurist who flew up to Weimar once a week and gave them a lesson about a special procedure. And at the end of the course, she said, "Okay, now you have to go to beauty school to get your licenses." And we hired a bus and sent them down to beauty school. And they all got their licenses, and off they went. And it was an amazingly profitable vocation for them. And it turned out to be such a good one that some of their husbands became involved with the business of manicuring, and they were able to send their children to school, to college. It worked. It was just wonderful. It was the best time of my life, and I still stay in touch with many of them. Yeah, it's a good story.
Paul McCann says, "Hi, Tippi. I'm a huge fan from Ireland. Marnie is one of my all-time favorite movies. I was wondering if there are any scenes you're particularly proud of, or if you have any funny stories from working with Mr. Connery."
Mr. Connery was not only extremely handsome. Oh, there was a funny story about when the role for the Mark Rutland character was being cast, and many of the Hollywood actors were tossed around, and Hitchcock couldn't find one. And finally he said, "I have found your Mark Rutland." And I said, "Great." And I said, who is this person? And he said, Sean Connery. And I said, Sean Connery? Mr. Hitchcock, do you remember the character that I'm going to be playing against? And do you remember my character? My character is so frigid that she screams if a man comes near her. How am I supposed to handle this? He said, it's called acting, my dear. And that was the end of that.
Yancey Derringer is asking, what was it like working with Jessica Tandy on The Birds?
The Birds was my first film, and working with Rod Taylor was wonderful and marvelous. But the magic was with Jessica Tandy, great stage star, consummate actress, and to be able to do a film with her was a great honor for me. The Birds was my first film, so I had a great deal to learn, and it was just an extraordinarily great pleasure to be having to work with her. It was just awesome. She taught me so much, and we became good friends, and it was quite ideal. It was wonderful.
Bill Green asks, I understand that you worked in an Edward Wood film, junior film, and that you're also a big fan of Johnny Depp. Did you meet Mr. Wood? If so, what did you think of Depp's portrayal in that film?
I didn't work with Johnny Depp.
No, did you see him in the film?
Oh, I haven't seen that film, no. But I am very, very related to Johnny Depp. I named my cat Johnny Depp because I am so infatuated with him, and I have always wanted to work with him at some point. So, anyway, I had adopted the whole litter of 6 kittens about 25 years ago, and it was getting towards the end of their lives. They all lived to be 20 years old or a little older, and I was left with 2 of them. And one day I was walking out the door, and this black and white cat came around the side of my house, and he said, hold that door open for a moment because I'm going to live in there now. And I said, come on in, Johnny Depp. Because I already had Rod Taylor, Marlon Brando, Sean Connery, John Saxon, Melanie Griffith. It was like that. So he joined whichever were left. But what a wonderful animal he is. I am so thrilled with him. He is so smart. And he runs my life completely. And I sleep with him.
Jack Fields is asking, what is your favorite and fondest memory of working with Chaplin?
I think I'm the only actress who has worked with both Hitchcock and Charlie Chaplin. And, the 2 of them were so dichotomously different from the other in their, directorial positions. The best about Charlie was that he would get out on the set and act out all of our parts, all of our roles. And he was so perfect at it. He was it was magnificent to watch. I was thrilled. Marlon Brando, on the other hand, wanted to quit. Him with his method acting rules and regulations, he could hardly stand it. I thought it was absolutely delightful because Charlie would become my character, Sophia Loren's character, Marlon's character. I mean, he was perfect. It was just an interesting insight into Marlon Brando. Very interesting.
Gloria Corrine Chavez says, hello, dear Tippi. I was so sad when I learned that Hitch kept you from working with some other filmmakers because I think the world misses other films with you. How did you react to that, and did you forgive him? Many greetings from France.
Thank you. That was a terrible time in my life, and I had to make a decision of when I was approached to situations of which I was not comfortable with, and had to get out of that relationship. It stopped a great deal of my career. I understand. It didn't matter to me because it was more important that I lived up to my own morals and what my parents had taught me, and I was perfectly happy with my decision on that level. It was kind of sad because I apparently missed out on doing a number of films, but wasn't important to me. How I felt was more important, and was I living up to my own standards.
Gay Sklar says, I love your tattoo. What do you think about talking to your fans at conventions?
About my tattoo?
Anything.
Okay. It's back here, and it's 3 birds in flight. It is quite pretty. It's nice. And what do I think of what?
Talking to your fans at conventions.
I love talking to the fans. I find that it's really wonderful to know how intelligent you all are, and how aware you are about film and filming and actors, and no, I like it. Keep it up.
Andre Mark Schneider says, Tippi, I couldn't find anything in your book about the single you recorded in the late 60s, or your theater work, or one of my favorite B movies, Tiger by the Tail. Do you have stories about these matters to share?
Yes, I have a fear of singing. I have a terrible fear of singing, and it came from the only thing I think I can believe that it stems from was when I was a very little girl in Lafayette, Minnesota, and it was I was about four years old. My parents had a dinner party, and so I had learned a song because there was a radio show with a singer named Kate Smith, and she used to sing a song, "When the moon comes over the mountain, every beam brings a dream back of you," and on. So anyway, my parents were having this dinner party, and I flung open the kitchen door. You know, it was one of those swinging doors. And I flung the door open and started singing "When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain," and on. And my mother's and daddy's guests laughed. And I suppose now that they were laughing because I was so damn cute. However, in my eyes, I was embarrassed, and I have never sung since. I need a psychiatrist.
Lars Howe asks, do you support your daughter to become an actress?
I not only support her, but I was surprised that this had happened. It was never in my blood to teach a child or tell a child what they should be doing or what career they should go into. I think that's the choice of the human being. And my daughter went with a friend of hers to meet with a producer about her friend doing a movie. And the producer said, "Well, you're not right, but Melanie, you are perfect for it." So one day Melanie came home and said, "Mom, I'm going to do a movie." And "You're what?" And she did. And that's how she got started in the whole business, which was a surprise to me. But I think it's important that young people find their own desires of what they might possibly want to do in their lives, and what they want to have become of themselves. And anyway, Melanie proved herself, and then came Dakota Johnson. You all know her. Yeah. And Dakota is one of the most wonderful women. As with my daughter, I am so proud of both of them, and I love them both so dearly. And I miss them when they're away. And of course, I live an hour outside of Los Angeles on the Shambhala Preserve, so it's not the kind of thing where we can just meet for coffee and kind of run over to each other's homes and that sort of thing. And it's my fault. It's my choice.
What happened when you tried to introduce Alfred Hitchcock to Charlie Chaplin?
Yeah. Well, I was doing the Countess of Hong Kong in London, and Alfred Hitchcock and his wife Alma came to London to do something. I don't know what it was, and that doesn't matter. But anyway, I did have tea with them, and I had this brilliant idea. Wouldn't it be wonderful for the world if Charlie Chaplin and Alfred Hitchcock had a photograph together? I mean, it would be legion. It would be awesome. And so I presented that to them, and Mr. Hitchcock said, "Why would I want to do that?" And I thought, oh, I don't know, probably just the two of you, two icons in the film business. Wouldn't that be kind of wonderful? And he said no. Isn't that unreal? I couldn't believe it.
Anna Warminger is asking, "Hi Tippi, what is it like sharing a house with a tiger or lion?"
Oh, okay. There's a mistake here. We really didn't share my home with the big cats. Every now and then, when they were little, there might be a time when before they went into the preserve that they would stay with me for a little while. But they are a one-man demolition crew. They are apex predators, and we do not agree with having them in your home as a pet or for financial gain or anything like that. They are magical and mystical, and they should not be born in captivity to be somebody's pet. So please don't. Don't do it. Come and see us, though. We rescue them. Shambhala.org. SHAMBALA.org. We're in Southern California, and outside of a little town called Acton. I've been living there with these animals since the early 70s, and I wouldn't live anyplace else. I don't think there's enough money in the world to get me to move, but you can try. Yeah.
What were the items inducted into the Smithsonian when they honored your career?
Oh, okay. There's one of my gowns is in the Smithsonian, and this bird pin. What else is in there?
Scripts from Chaplin
Scripts.
and Hitchcock.
Scripts from the birds and the Countess of Hong Kong.
With
what else?
notes from Hitchcock and from Charlie Chaplin.
And notes from both of the great directors, Charlie Chaplin and Alfred Hitchcock. It's a great honor. I'm going to go visit them sometime. And now they're doing this to me here, which means we have to end this lovely conversation that we're having. I've enjoyed so much talking to you, and I hope we'll meet again, please. And this book is fabulous. I've had a great life.